All right, boys, this is Chiefs and Vikings. Points galore, right? 52.5 to 53 is our total. Chiefs, 3.5 on the road against the Vikings. Adam, we saw what would you say? A bottom 10% outcome for Patrick Mahomes last week, maybe a bottom 5% outcome for Patrick Mahomes last week. It looked more like it was Jackson Mahomes out there playing as opposed to Patrick Mahomes. Some of those passes that he was throwing, I mean, just like really, really true, like head scratchers. Like I didn't even get it. So I think we're getting a little bit of recency bias in this, that they're only 3.5 against the Vikings. But look, we know what we get in the Vikings, right? It's going to be super blitz heavy. Now they have backed off a little bit on that the past 2 weeks. And so they're not going at 65% of the time. They're going more at 50% of the time. So they did back off at least a little bit of that this week. You'd like to think they back off it a little bit more because Patrick Mahomes destroys the blitz, but we shall see. What do you think of the Vikings and the Chiefs here sitting at 3.5?
This is so hard to figure out, this line move. I have a very difficult time understanding this coming from 6 all the way down to 3.5, barring an injury, because of the fact that Kansas City's defense is still good, right? Mm-hmm. I don't understand where we're looking at the Vikings. And again, we talked about your priors versus what you've seen. Yes, they've had enormous turnover luck go against them. And yes, we expect that a Justin Jefferson-led offense and a Kirk Cousins-led offense is going to break out at some point because they have been able to move the ball up and down the field. But what they have not been able to do is score points. And so I felt very fortunate with my second strongest play of the week last week being on Minnesota to get out of that game with a win, because Kirk Cousins threw a Desmond Ridder level pick 6 that swung 14 points in that game. Right? Minnesota should have put 7 on the board, and it became a 99-yard pick 6 for Carolina. So I felt very fortunate to get out of that game. So I'll tell you how I feel about this, because I don't want to be in the position of going against the market here in case there's something that I'm missing with Kansas City. I am going to go against the market in this idea. I actually think there's a case to be made for under in this game. Non-Bears games for the Kansas City Chiefs so far. They scored 23 last week against the Jets in a game in which they went out and blitzed out to 17 points and then scored 6 more. They scored 20 against the Detroit Lions, and they scored 17 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Even if you think that Patrick Mahomes is going to eat against the Minnesota Vikings, I'm not sure that we can trust, A, that Kansas City is going to go out there and put 30 points on the board, and B, that Minnesota is suddenly going to start being able to cash in these drives against a Kansas City defense that we've all said on this podcast is way better than we thought they were going to be. So it's slightly contrarian. I know that's not usually the way that I come at these things, but I do think there's a case to be made for an under. And I know that I'll probably be coming back here next week and saying, hi, I'm the moron who said the Minnesota Vikings against Kansas City indoors, we're going to go under.
Yeah, but Adam, I'm gonna let everyone in on a little secret here. The Kansas City offense is graded by Pro Football Focus at 17th in the NFL so far through 4 games. That's in the bottom half of the NFL, guys. Like it's the dirty little secret that, like, because the defense is so good that they're still winning these games and keeping everything like, but like, they haven't been that great. And Patrick Mahomes has not been that great.
Do you remember what I said in the preseason was my concern about Kansas City? If I had to pick one thing that I was concerned about with the Chiefs, do you remember?
That their star tight end was going to start dating the most famous pop star in the world?
Yep, I remember that.
I do too, yeah.
No, yeah. I said I was concerned about their 2 new tackles on their offensive line, and they've been horrible. And Jawan Taylor's not only been horrible, he's like one of the most penalized tackles in the league too. So I think that's been a big problem as well. I have not been shy about going against sharp action on this podcast over the past 3 years. And I think it's fair to say I've had some moderate success doing that. But I've never seen it with the Chiefs, not once. So this is kind of making me pause and wonder if I'm missing something as well. So I certainly see that the Minnesota offense has been fantastic, and it's just turnovers that are killing them. But I also think Kirk Cousins has deserved a lot of those turnovers. Like that, he's just being a bonehead, whether it's been the fumbles or the interceptions. Nevertheless, they're top 5 in the league in net yards per play this year. So if they can clean up the turnovers, then yeah, I think they can keep pace with Kansas City. So I just don't think this defense can stop Mahomes, to be honest with you. Like, I know they aren't grading out well through the first month, Matt, but isn't this the matchup that gets them right? Number 1 blitz rate in the league, and Mahomes is the best blitz killer in the NFL. Last year is top 5 when blitzed by EPA, and also top 5 when he had less than 2.5 seconds to throw the ball. So if they're going to send all out blitzes, I think he's going to tear this defense up. So this is kind of like the Ravens, where I'm pretty confident the Chiefs win this game. I'm just not sure I want to lay more than a field goal. So I got creative and, did one of those little alt spread parlays with another leg I like here, and, get the Chiefs under 3, and you can get like around plus 150, plus 160 with another leg there. I chose the 49ers under a field goal to get plus 160, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not sure I'm seeing. I respect the sharp action on Minnesota to get this lower and closer to a field goal, but I still think the Chiefs win this game.
Yeah, Adam, to kind of go back to all this, like indoors and whatever, and all that, like as you're mentioning, what I actually see in this with all that is like, I see Mahomes with the ball and 57 seconds left, and they get to like the 38-yard line or whatever, and then we bomb up a Harrison Butker 56-yarder at the buzzer to win by 3, and you go, oh, I knew I should have taken the 3 in the hook with the Vikings, but it's like, no, you shouldn't. You had 6 earlier in the week. You had 4. So it's just, it's not bettable to me. It's just it's just not bettable to me. This has Harrison Butker 56-yarder at the buzzer written all over it.
It does. And I want to, I can almost give the contrarian to my contrarian and say that Kansas City should have had 7 more against Jacksonville at the end. They decided to sit on it. Should have had 7 more against the Jets at the end of it. Decided to sit on it. But what I have in response to my response is that ultimately this Chiefs team, we're still waiting to see it consistently with the performance outside of Travis Kelce, right? Like, we've gotten good Travis Kelce when he's played, but I've heard arguments for Rashee Rice. I've heard arguments for it being more Isaiah Pacheco. Again, if it's going to happen, this is when it's going to happen, but you're betting on if. And you're also doing that on Minnesota. If you're betting on Minnesota, you're betting on if. You're betting on analytics breaking through and trying to find an edge. Well, if you take both of those things and you're trying to bet on 2 ifs and saying that's where the points are going to come from, for me, I will happily take an under there.